This is Dawn Must Follow Night by Hunter Danson. Part 1, Chapter 18. Read by the author. You have to listen to me. Lindril is planning something. Alera sat across from Lord Sunrow of Tormund. There was a company of Dindran knights crossing the Tarn a few moons back. Said they were coming to repair your gate. The Lord of Tormund glanced up from his brisket. And how do you know that? He chewed while he spoke, not caring to wipe the pieces of fat landing on his beard. Where have you... He washed down the brisket with a swig of wine. Where have you been off to, girl? I am a woman, father. I go where I please. Lord Sunrow snorted. Wine dribbled down his chin and mingled with the fat. You go where you please because you're my daughter. Now tell me the truth, Alexandra. I already did. Dindran knights are crossing the Tarn, and no one in this castle seems to care. Alera scratched at a hangnail on her left thumb. I know where you've been, Allie. Just tell me the truth. I don't understand. The hangnail was gone now, but her finger kept scratching. Lord Sunrow sighed. He took a massive swig of wine, then stood up and paced with a wobbling gait. Listen, I tried with you, Allie. I really did. I might have sent you off after your mother died. Might have handed off raising you, but I didn't. I decided to be your father. Then you went and got yourself with child, and it just about broke me, but I kept going. We had a hard time with that, but we got over it. He kept looking at the floor and the walls, anywhere but at Alera. But this, I don't know what to do anymore. He turned to her with tears in his eyes. This kingdom is on the edge, Allie, and I need you to be a lady, not giving yourself a different name and role-playing with a bunch of lowlifes. While he was speaking, Alera felt as if the walls of the room were shrinking while her father got bigger and bigger. His face was all she could see, stained with wine and tears and sweat. She knew she was on a tightrope now. A word could set him off. How did you find out? She said in a small voice. Doesn't matter how I found out, Allie. Just that you stop. You could see that, can't you? You've got to be a proper lady, just like your mother. My mother. Alera looked down at her hands. Her thumb was bloody now, but her finger didn't stop. She watched it scratch and scratch, independent of her mind. It had a vendetta against her thumb, wanted to expose it and hurt it and make it smaller and less important than it was. She grabbed her hand and stopped it, stood up and faced her father. My mother, she said in a bigger voice. You want to talk about mother? The right side of Lord Sunrow's face twitched. A little piece of boar dripped from his beard. Allie, don't call me that, Alera shouted. She died because of you. She turned to leave, but he grabbed her and pulled her close so she could smell the meat and alcohol. You will listen to me, he screamed and slapped her with a rough, meaty hand. You will do as I say. You are my daughter. He raised his hand to slap her again, but she kneed him in the stomach and ran. He roared after her. You will listen. Alera was shaking when she made it to her solar. I need to leave. How did he find out about the cloaks? I need to leave, she thought, stuffing her things into a sack and changing her clothes at the same time. She donned a black gambeson and black trousers. Then there was a knock at the door. Alera froze. Alera, Alexandra, whatever you want to be called, her father said from the other side. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. You're right about Dindra. Trust me, I know they're up to something, but my hands are tied. They got the finest steel in the realm. I've got to deal above board with them, or my boys will be wielding sticks." He waited for an answer. Alera didn't move. "Listen, you come talk when we're ready. We'll sort this out like a family should. Just come and find me when you're ready." Alera listened until his footsteps faded away, then belted on her saber and eased open the door. Her shadow stretched down the hallway. When she was a girl, her father would sometimes play with her. Those were her best memories of him. They played cat and rat, a game where each person went to opposite ends of the castle and sneaked back, trying to catch their opponent by surprise. Alera always won, most likely because he let her. But the game gave her practice. She eased a foot out, holding her boots in her hand, and crept towards the stairs. She descended them and emerged into the empty main hall. Alera pulled on her boots and stepped towards the exit, breaking shafts of red sunlight with her silhouette. The moon was sleeping, thankfully, so the yard was empty. She hurried across it to the stables. Henry snorted a greeting. "Hey, boy," Alera said, flinging a saddle over his back. "Let's get out of here." She led him across the yard and paused in the middle to look at the castle. Its stone walls protested in vain against the rays turning them red. Behind her, the gate beckoned. She patted Henry and started towards it. "Let's go, boy." "You're out awful late, Lady Alexandra," the guard on moonset duty said. "Yeah, Frin, couldn't sleep." She smiled at him. He put a hand over his eyes to shield the sun and squinted at her. "I heard shouting." Alera frowned and pulled out a stray hair behind her ear. "You know how Lord Sunrow gets." He matched her frown. "All right." He dropped his hand and opened the gate. "I ain't gonna pry, but Lord Sunrow comes down on you, I ain't helping. He asks me, I'll just say you snuck past." "Thanks, Frin." She smiled at him and spurred Henry. "Appreciate your honesty." She rode at a comfortable pace west. Her father would not know she was gone until the moon rose, if he was able to remember anything when he woke up. The sky stretched out above her like an inverted sea, dripping color on everything underneath. The mountains, the trees, her horse, all were soaked in its glow. When Alera finally reached the gelding, the last inn on the western road to Dawn Castle, she was sick of it. She dismounted and tied Henry to the post, took a few deep breaths, then entered the inn. When she opened the door, she was no longer Alexandra Sunrow, daughter of the Lord of Tormund. She was Alera of the Black Cloaks. The inn greeted her with the smell of floorboards that had soaked up decades of wine and ale. The innkeeper's wife tried to burn incense to hide it, but the sweet cinnamon only sharpened the decaying alcohol. The innkeeper himself, a thin, short man with a face like a rat, smelled her the moment she entered. He scurried over and offered her their finest wine. "No thanks, then, saving my coin for something more important." Den's eyes narrowed until they were two slits. His nose twitched. "And what business would that be, Lady Alera?" "None of yours, then. Where are the cloaks?" He pointed to the stairs that led below ground. "Thanks," Alera said, smiling. Then glared while she walked past. The cloaks were singing. "I lost me love on a field of red. One night rode for days and days. Lay, ole, ole, ole. Oh, how I missed the way she neighed." Alera frowned at the awful pitch of 15 drunk men singing mediocre rhymes. She waited for them to finish before approaching. Trill was dancing on the table. At the last verse, he imitated neighing again and slipped on a puddle of ale, careening backwards and landing on the ground with a thud. The crowd laughed. Trill rubbed his head and managed to sit. "Hey, boys," he said when he saw Alera. "Alera's here." He tried to stand up and stumbled. "Stand at attention." The cloak scrambled. Trill fell down twice more before managing to get to his feet and stay there. Alera grinned. "Enjoying a latest score, I see." Captain," Trill said. "And how much of it is left, Trill?" "Well, The cloaks looked at each other. Trill stuck a hand in his pocket and pulled out a few gold pieces. "Not quite as much as we had, Captain." "Right. Well, what if I told you boys about a new score I've got in mind? It's a risky one, but the payoff could be big. Bigger than we've ever seen." They perked up. "How risky?" Trill asked. "Rather not get into it here, boys." Alera glanced around the room. Most of the people were too drunk to remember anything they overheard, but it was better to be safe. "Finish your round and meet me outside." When she was back under the sky, Alera considered returning to the castle. In spite of her bluster, this plan was really nothing more than an excuse to get away from Tormund. Yet, what her father had said about the Dindran steel gave her an idea. If she could steal some for him, maybe help him gain some independence from Lindril, he might realize that she was more than a prop to secure alliances with. If he didn't accept her, then, well, she could just sell it to someone else. It was a long shot, but it might work. Alera patted Henry, admiring the way his silky black pelt reflected the red sky. The door opened behind her. "So what's the plan, Captain?" Trill asked. She smiled. "We're going to steal Dindra's steel."